Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice to Radio. So today, we're going to be starting our look at a bunch of decks that have been doing quite well over in Japan. You see, what they've done over in Japan, they've gone and made a website that is collating all of the winning decks from all of their moderately large tournaments. So I figured we should have a dig through and find some of the most interesting ones, all of which are good decks that have been doing rather well, and we should have a look at them here. And I've gone and found one that plays a couple of cards that we're just not expecting. As a side note, this deck will work absolutely fine outside of Japan. I know they've got a couple cards that we don't, none of them are particularly important to the deck. We'll be fine. And it's a deck that plays Mawile GX and Jirachi Prism Star. You know, those powerhouse cards that have been crushing. These are cards that I've frankly just not see any real play or success whatsoever. So the idea of having them in a deck here is really quite awesome. But like so many decks, and I'm sorry, but this is a thing which is going to keep going on, it does revolve largely around the creation trio, Arceus and Dialga and Palkia. It is the most widely played card in the deck, and it really is at the center of the deck. And there's no way around it, right? It's a phenomenal card. And yes, I know I didn't put it on my top 20 from Cosmic Eclipse. I feel dumb, alright? Seriously, I do feel like I've underrated it. Arceus and Dialga and Palkia. 1 water, 1 metal, 1 colorless energy, 150 damage. Search your deck for 3 energy, basic, and attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like. We then have 1 metal energy, all your attacks from all of your Pokemon do 30 more for the rest of the game, or 1 metal, 1 water, all your attacks do 30 more for the rest of the game. And you take an extra prize every time you take a KO for the rest of the game. And that really is why this card is so good. We love the extra damage, we love the energy acceleration, but when you actually look and go, oh, you literally take an extra prize every time you take a KO for the rest of the game, yeah, that's when we start getting pretty gosh darned excited. Now, that's a dragon Pokemon. Where does Mawile come in? Mawile covers your weakness. You see, Gardevoir and Sylveon is a very good deck. It's a very good deck doing very well over here. It's a very good deck doing very well over in Japan. It's a very good deck. And it's Fairy. And the problem is that you are weak to Fairy. Now, that does create a huge problem. Because the whole point of Gardevoir and Sylveon is it's not a giant one-hit KO deck. You get some energy and you heal and you play fairy charms and etc, etc. Well, the problem is that they hit 150 naturally and you've got 280 and they will get a one-hit KO, which is bad. So in you come with Mawile, and you're absolutely fine. It's not the only thing Mawile does. One of the other really cool things that Mawile does here is that it's good against non-GXs. Now, we should probably remind ourselves what Mawile does at this stage. The ability Captivating Wink is literally Captivating Pokepuff. When you play it from your hand onto your bench, you may look at your opponent's hand and bench whatever basics you find there. Really fun side note, if you bench something like Dedenne, your opponent doesn't get to use the ability, so you're literally wasting the ability as well as benching the Pokemon. You then, for 1 metal, 1 colorless energy, do 10 damage base, plus 30 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So with a full bench of them, you'll be hitting 160. It's not a powerhouse level of attacking, but it works very nicely in the context of if you're against non-GXs. And of course, you'll be hitting 30 more throughout the entire game because of the Creation Trio's GX attack. You do have your own GX attack here. You're not using it. Oh, look at your opponent's hand, discard all their supporter cards. Maybe there'll be the odd game where you think that you can wreck their hand and stop them drawing anything for a while with this. But if they top deck a supporter, it was wasted. I don't like it. We've got a phenomenal GX attack here. Now, we also play Keldeo GX, and it's partly because we're playing Water Energy, and it's partly because it's great. It's got the ability, Pure Heart, which basically makes it immune all effects of attacks, including damage, done to it by GX and EX Pokemon. Now, it can be turned off with something like Power Plant, etc. It's not perfect, but it's still kind of nice. So you know what? Go Keldeo. And then we see Jirachi Prism Star. Jirachi Prism Star! Now, Jirachi Prism Star isn't here for the attack. It is here for Wish Upon a Star. To be fair, the attack for free colorless energy does 10 damage, puts your opponent's Pokemon to sleep, and at the end of their next turn they're knocked out, but it's too easy to just get them out the active. But Wish Upon a Star, if you take it as a face-down prize card, you get to bench it and take a prize. It's nice. I have been wondering why we've not seen more one-off Jirachi Prism Stars making their way into decks. Maybe this is just a fluke. Maybe this is just one person who does it to all of their decks. But the most important thing here, it can get you an extra prize. And you know when it works. And it will be prized approximately 1 in 10 games. And bearing in mind 1 in 6 of those games at least, even if you win, you won't draw it until your final prize card when it doesn't do anything. If you're taking GX, the Tag Team GX prize, you've got a 50% chance you don't even draw it. But it's still quite nice. We've then got Dedenne there for a bit of consistency, and the deck does play Tapu Lele, but Tapu Lele can be replaced with Dedenne. We did it, and Japan's about to do it when they rotate shortly. So that's the Pokemon. In terms of energy, we got a mixture of water and metal. Water and metal is what we need for the creation trio. And then you've got water for Keldeo and metal for Mawile. 8 metal, 7 water. Mawile is what you're going to be using more often here than Keldeo. We've also got 2 Mawile, 1 Keldeo, which I think tells you what you need to know. Now, in terms of supporters, we've got largely what you would expect. It is interesting to note that we do play Cynthia and Caitlyn here. Cynthia and Caitlyn, frankly, comes into basically every deck at this stage. Cynthia and Caitlyn is seeing a phenomenal amount of play in a huge amount of decks. Almost every list we look at from Japan right now plays Cynthia and Caitlyn. You get to put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand, and if you wish, you may also discard a card from your hand and draw free. This is seeing more play than any other tag team supporter, and it will probably continue to do so. We've got Lily and Erica as draw cards here. They're fine. They work. We're cool with it. They're good draw cards. We do see Ace Roller and Guzma here, which, yes, I know we don't have them. It's slightly upsetting, but having said at that stage, it doesn't really matter because we lost them to our rotation and we carried on just fine. There's no reason why we can't carry on without them here. Now, in terms of stadium cards, we see 1 Viridian Forest. This is really nice because you're playing 2 different kinds of basic energy. This will just allow you to find the basic energy that you want. You don't want to end up with all metal, no water, for instance. That would be bad. Or the other way round. And then we see 1 Chaotic Swirl here. Chaotic Swirl is the ultimate counter stadium. Essentially, you play it down, and if your opponent wants to play another stadium, you immediately discard it without actually doing anything to it. Very nice, just to stop your opponent playing their own stadiums. And honestly, a lot of what we see from everything else is pretty standard. With the exception of we see an energy switch. It helps move energy around your Pokemon, especially as you're accelerating energy, and especially for Mawile, the opportunity to just play down Mawile energy switch energy is very strong. Do remember with Mawile, it can be KO'd on the bench by the residual damage from Pikachu and Zekrom's GX attack, because you got 170 HP, so do be a little careful benching it when you don't have to. It can also be KO'd on the bench by Naganadel, though that isn't seeing a huge amount of play over in Japan at the moment. It's not wrecking the format over there. And I speak as someone who's been digging through about 100 Japanese deck lists from like a dozen different tournaments over the past couple of weeks, so I've been doing my homework. And then we see Peking Red Card. Now, Peking Red Card is one that should have rotated out, except we got a secret rare print in Ultra Prism, and remember that the secret rare prints all have their own set number, which does elongate the legality. Promos tend to be alternate art, but secret rares get their own set number, so it never actually rotated, and it's really nice in this deck. Peking Red Card lets you look at your opponent's hand, and you can have them shuffle their hand into their deck and draw the same number of cards. And obviously here, this is for Mawile. Look at their hand. If they've got enough basics that you can bench them and take advantage, you do. If they don't, you play Peking Red Card, and even though you're not guaranteed to make them draw into enough basic Pokemon for you to be able to take advantage, it does at least give you another chance, and for that, I think we can all be fairly grateful. So that's the deck, ladies and gentlemen. It's weird, it's not what we're used to. Arceus and Dialga and Palkia, yeah, that's a phenomenal card. It's popping up in a whole bunch of decks. That is not particularly groundbreaking. We're used to it. But this other one, your Mawile, your Jirachi, the other parts of the deck, that makes this pretty gosh darn interesting. But at this stage, I'd like to know what you think about this deck, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.